We need to hire someone to do our merch in 2025 and say we'll give them 50% if they just do it.
50% of the merch sales?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right, 50% of the merch sales. If you are an artist and you want to design a T-shirt, send your designs to Jordan, Steve, or Tanner at mncannabiscollege.org. All right.
In fact, we can show how bad we are in need of a graphic designer by just like using this as the ad. We'll use this as an ad.
This is an ad.
Yeah, please let us know. We want more merch, and you could do it. Drop us a line. And let's go. Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner to small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or are just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis. Keeping track of your grow doesn't have to be a hassle. Meet Plant Track. That's PLNTRK, a tool built by Minnesota growers for growers like you. Track every stage of your plant with intuitive progress bars for each phase. Stay on top of your grow with text reminders for watering, feeding, and photos. And when it's time to log data, it couldn't be easier. Just scan a QR code or tap an NFC tag to instantly access your plant's details and updates. You can even log your interactions for one or all your plants in just seconds. Ask detailed questions with the AI chat powered by your plant's data and get the help that you need when you need it. It's free for up to 8 plants. Go to www.plntrk.com now and start tracking your grow. Hello. Welcome. Oh, fuck. That voice crack has been killing me recently. Getting over a cold.
Are you going through puberty?
I know. That's
Round
what people
2.
are going to think. It wasn't fun the first time.
It never is.
I don't know if I would like it as an adult. All right.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern. I think we should go in hard talking about the puberty. Yeah.
We're starting from the beginning.
We're starting from the beginning. Yeah. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Marcus and Jordan. Hey there, guys.
Peace. Good evening.
Yeah, how's it going?
Hello, gentlemen. Good.
Feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
Enjoying another wonderful Friday here at the Seed and Sesh. Having a good time. Another episode of Northern Lights. You know, can't complain.
The snow is falling gently.
It is. Yeah, it actually looks sort of like a snow globe outside. For those watching, we got the window right that way, and we can see some pretty nice snowfall. So
I love those giant fluffy.
It's like the slow, like, I just hear Vince Garibaldi's like Charlie Brown, soundtrack, the jazz. Just
wow. I know exactly what song you're talking about. Not because of the words you used, but because of that trumpet part that you put in there. I know the song. Well, guys, we got a great episode today. We've got some news. Stuff has happened over the past couple of weeks, and we're going to be digging into it today.
Stuff happens.
We got a new interim director. We, by the time you guys are hearing this episode, have draft rules. Our industry is moving forward. A little bit later in the episode, we've got Sydney Peloquin of Minny Grown, who comes in. It was really fun hearing about what it's like to run a social media account for a cannabis company. I don't enjoy it, but she does a great job of it, and it was really cool to hear about some of the history that went into that. Later in the episode, we've got some terp tasting with Ope Solventless, and of course, our high note every week. We got the high note, you know to expect it. But first, should we start with a little bit of a game?
Why not?
ooh,
Oh,
mix
yeah.
up. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Last week, we had a fun game about what were some of the things in 2024 that we're going to keep remembering. I wanted to sort of stick with the game vibe. Today, we're going to be playing a game, patent pending, called Who's in the Circle.
Okay.
Jordan, do you want to try to guess the game's rules? without knowing them?
No, absolutely not.
All right. Well, so we're going to give you two people, buds, besties, or maybe some beefs, and you need to decide who gets the last spot in the smoking circle. Who do you want to pass a joint to? Who might slobber or bogard? You get to decide. So I'm going to give you two different people. They may be friends, maybe they're enemies, and you get to decide. There's only one spot left. Who are you letting in the circle?
Oh, shit. Okay.
All right. So we've got a couple here. The first one, a classic stoner pair. I can't think of anyone more known as like the dynamic duo of cannabis than these two. Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart, the besties of the cannabis world, the unexpected duo who prove that weed culture and home cooking are a perfect pair. But unfortunately, there's only one slot left. Who are you going to let into the circle? Are you going to smoke with Snoop Dogg, or are you going to let Martha Stewart into the circle?
I'm going to go with Martha Stewart because I feel like
Okay.
Snoop Dogg has a lot to teach and a lot of stories. But I also am a sucker for just like good kitchen recipes.
I picture her grabbing the joint, taking a puff, and being like, "You want to know what makes a really good casserole?" And then passing it along.
It's tater tots.
It's the tater tots and how you lay them around on top. Oh man, that was some nasty stuff. Yeah, I could see that.
Martha. But like, God, that is Tanner. That's a. I don't feel good about the answer.
All right, Marcus, what do you think? Snoop Dogg or Martha? Who are you letting in?
I mean, Snoop.
All right, that's fair.
No
That's fair.
question. Martha, see you.
I gotta say, so this one I actually had on there as like the example question, where it's sort of a clear response, and then you come out of left gate with Martha Stewart, and I love it. I thought that was great. Yeah, that's a tough one. I liked hearing both perspectives.
Really?
Tiebreaker?
I think. I would love to hear Martha's incredible stories. I just think I want to be able to tell my kids I smoked with Snoop Dogg. And I think if I told my 14-year-old, I don't have any kids, but hypothetically in the future, I got to smoke with Snoop Dogg, they'd be like, "You're not cool, but that's cool." And if I said I smoked weed with Martha Stewart, they'd be like, "Neat, Dad." Like, and so
Like, no, I'm absolutely incorrect in this, but I'm also the
there's
contrarian.
no wrong answers.
I'm
There's
just
no
the
wrong
contrarian.
answers.
So here.
All right, let's move on to the
There's
next
no wrong
one.
answer.
No wrong answers. Next, we got a couple buds. Two flavor connoisseurs. We got Gordon Ramsay, you know, the Yeller chef, or Guy Fieri, the mayor of Flavortown with the frosted tips. He does dive-ins. Oh God, I hate this one. Diners, drive-ins, and dives. So he goes around the country and eats different food.
Yeah.
Do you know these two people?
I've seen Guy on the walls of a couple restaurants. I've heard of him. I mean, which of them was more fun? I think Guy would be more fun.
All right,
Guy is
all right,
way
Guy.
more fun.
All right, yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
I
go with
want
Guy.
way
to
more
be
fun.
with the fun guy.
All right, we'll go with Guy. All right, next one.
Well,
yeah.
does Gordon loosen up though? Like, do you think Gordon could loosen up from his tightly wound, "Are you an idiot" sandwich type vibe?
Have you ever seen Gordon Ramsay on the kids version of his show?
Yes, he's an absolute sweetheart.
He's so sweet. And I imagine while he's smoking, he's probably a lot like that until he rips too hot of a dab.
Yep.
And then he's yelling at you like, "That wasn't 580. All right, next one. This is the one we were referencing earlier. You got to let one of these guys in. Who are you letting in? Do you want to let Elon Musk into the circle? Or are you letting Mark Zuckerberg into your circle? The billionaire space cowboy or the metaverse overlord? Who do you want to smoke weed with?
I mean, if I have to choose one, I'd go with Mark.
All right.
I wouldn't want Elon to cast a shadow over the threshold of any building I'm in.
All right, there we go. I like that. What, Jordan, you're a big Elon fan. Would you invite him into
Yeah.
Perfect.
Elon, no, I'm absolutely taking the bullet in the left kneecap versus the right kneecap.
There you go.
Fuck.
Come on in, Mark. Do you think he's as robotic when he gets stoned?
I don't know if his is his software up to date.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like,
Incredible. All right. We got another one here. This is our first big beef. Although I guess Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg they're sort of beefing. Kendrick Lamar or Drake?
Kendrick.
Do you happen to be at the same? All right. Yeah. That was an easy one. Yep. Yeah.
Drake is not like us.
Do you want the conscious rapper or the certified lover boy? Is what I put in the notes. And I'm not going to say the next line of the song because we don't want to get sued. All right. Now we've got two buds, Zach Galifianakis or Will Ferrell. Two comedy icons, two wild cards. Who do you think is more likely to turn that circle into a comedy bit?
Will Ferrell.
All right. Kicking and screaming into the circle.
I feel like... God, Tanner, these are... brain busters. I'm going to go Galifianakis. I feel like he'll fall into it quicker and be less conscious or like less self-censoring or whatever, He'll just lean in.
I could see smoking with Zach Galifianakis being the first time that I smoke an entire joint with someone without saying a single word. And it's just like me looking at him and then him sort of looking at me. And then eventually we're done, and it's just like, thanks, man. And then we just like walk different directions.
Anyway, this has been another episode of Between Two Ferns.
Between two buds.
I remember there was some movie that Will Ferrell was in, and I think he was like playing an old guy, and he exposed himself below the belt. And his testicles were like sagging down there.
Incredible. Shout out to Will Ferrell. Do you think he would bring that prop to a smoke circle? That could certainly liven it up.
Oh, shit.
Well, a perfect transition from that one. This next one,
these nuts.
This is for the kids. All right, who would you invite into the circle? You're at the strangest party ever, and for some reason, both Barney the dinosaur and Big Bird want to get into the same circle with you. And you got to pick which of these childhood icons. Are you going to have one who's maybe a bit too cheerful or maybe one who's a bit too judgy? Who would you invite into the circle? Barney or Big Bird?
Cheerful over judgy.
Oh, you're taking Barney over Big Bird.
I mean, my instinct is bring Big Bird in there.
Okay.
But when you frame it like too judgy or too cheerful,
think Big Bird is a little bit judgy, but that's my. I suppose I was shadowing my own opinions on that.
That's more of a buzzkill.
No, I think Big Bird is less judgy, just more particular.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm gonna pick Big Bird because Barney I feel is a little too lovey-dovey to start with.
Okay.
And then you get a little weed in him, and he's gonna be like the friend that like wants to just be like.
And that's exactly what I was gonna say. I have friends that get a little bit stoned, and they're like, "Huh, your personal space is now my personal space."
Yeah,
and I feel like Barney would do that.
Toxic positivity.
A
little too. Yeah.
Too much. Well, so we've only got a couple more. They don't get more serious. So let's keep moving on and descending down. You're at an even stranger party now, and you got to decide the Kool-Aid man or the Pillsbury Doughboy. Who are you inviting into the circle? Do you want someone who busts in and goes, "Oh yeah," or do you want to sort of tickle the little belly of someone? Yeah, there we go. Who's smoking a joint?
It's gonna be Pillsbury.
All right.
Yeah, Pillsbury. And, I mean, we're in
he's just
Minnesota,
ready to have a good time. Whereas, Kool-Aid Man,
yeah,
he's just here to perform.
I feel like Kool-Aid Man would be really good at a party on acid. Like that, you spike the punch. But yeah.
I'm taking.
All right.
I mean, Pillsbury's from Minnesota too, right?
Yeah, and so we're gonna get more and more Minnesota as we go. So next one, we got two musicians.
Oh God,
Prince or Bob Dylan?
Knew it.
You have to decide. Would you rather vibe with Paisley Park or roll with the folk rock legend?
I mean, I want to say Prince because I think Prince is cooler, but I think in private Prince was like a tyrant.
Okay, for sure.
So that's a tough one.
I feel like you can't go wrong, but also there's going to be downsides to both. I'm going to go with Prince because I feel like if he was just hanging out, he'd probably Probably a pretty swell fella.
Yeah.
Maybe if he's working, probably a bit more rigid.
Yeah, if he's working, he's probably a tyrant.
Yeah.
But I think you'd have probably deeper conversation with Prince.
That's where my mind was going. Like,
And
Bob,
his energy is, if he's not working. If he's working, he's probably like.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Bob would just be like, yeah, what do you think? I don't know. I went Paul McCartney on that.
Yeah. So, well, and I'm glad you brought up the Beatles, actually, because I would choose Bob Dylan because he is one step, allegedly, Bob Dylan was the one that introduced the Beatles to cannabis. And so I think it would be cool to say, like, Bob Dylan smoked with the Beatles for the first time, and I smoked with Bob Dylan. So it's sort of like I smoked with the Beatles for the first time.
Was Prince like a sober person, though?
Oh, man, this bit became much
Because he was a
worse if he
Jehovah's
was.
Witness.
You're right. So he probably
So I don't
wasn't a
think he
cannabis
did.
consumer.
Yeah, I don't think he did any types of, except maybe some pharmaceuticals.
I don't think he drank. That's
Okay. Prince fans, if you're out there, drop in the comments below. Was he a cannabis consumer? We'd love to hear more. I'm sure we could ask around the local Minnesota music scene enough and get it all figured out.
Somebody knows.
All right, well, we've only got a couple left here. This one I put on for you, Jordan, sort of.
Please.
We've got two different Minnesota mascots. Who is most likely to hold the joint? Is it the Target dog, so Bullseye is his name, or is it the Hams Beer Bear?
Sasha.
Sasha is
the name.
Thank you. So is it Bullseye or Sasha? Who is in your circle?
Probably Sasha.
I'm going to go Sasha, too.
Okay.
She just seems more laid back and ready to, like, hunker down and hibernate, you know?
Yeah. I'm glad that we picked that because I wanted to use this as a quick moment, as sort of like a PSA. Dogs should not consume cannabis. We shouldn't be inviting Bullseye into the circle because that's not safe.
I've heard there are a lot of people's dogs who like cannabis.
Probably.
I don't know if they like it or not, but they find it, that's for sure.
All right, well, here's the last one, guys. It's the last smoke of the night. There's one final circle. And you got to decide, who are you inviting into the circle? Are you going to invite into the circle the weather in Minnesota in January? Or are you inviting into the circle the mosquitoes in Minnesota in July?
Oh, fuck.
Which would you prefer to have in that circle?
Okay, I thought this was going to be way harder than it is. I'm taking weather. You can prep for the weather.
All right.
Yeah, when you first said the weather, I was like, not January. I'm trying to be a snowbird. But then July mosquitoes, yeah, no thanks.
All right.
One time I had this mosquito, like somehow I had these long baggy shorts. I was like a teenager. And I don't know how this mosquito went all the way up and like stung me on the nuts. I was like, what the fuck?
It feels like intentional at that point where it's like, hey, man, don't ruin my day.
Like, this is violence.
All right. Well, drop in the comments below. Who would you invite into your circle? Are you more of a Prince guy? Would you invite the Kool-Aid man in? Are you smoking with Drake? Don't. But let us know in the comments below. All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we've got a ton of news to cover. So we're going to jump into that. We'll be right back. Are you ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out. Get the best seeds and start your grow strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off. That's MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today. Going back to like the 70s, pre-indoor hybridization in America, you still had people that were shipping Maui Wowie into Minnesota.
No doubt, right? I mean, even like people who don't smoke weed, Maui Wowie is like this recognizable strain that everybody knows about. So
Yeah.
super excited about it.
Cannabis history in Minnesota is one of my like nerdy points. I just find it so interesting. And there's a guide that was put together by the Minnesota Daily, so the student newspaper for the U of M, way back in the 70s, that looked at all the different pricing for like hashish and different types of weed. It had Mexican brick on there. it had Thai stick, and it had Maui Wowie. It's like one of those classics that people knew by name, and it's cool that that genetic lineage is something that we can bring forward to today, and doesn't just have to be an experience of the 1970s. It can be an experience of 2024, 2025 here in Minnesota.
Yeah, no doubt, right? And it's funny, like, guys my age, gray beard and older, like, it's the number one thing people ask me for. It's amazing, like, still to this day, everybody's like, yeah, what do you know about, like, Maui Wowie? Can you get that? So it seemed like a no-brainer, like, oh, we got to get this one in.
I love that. So people probably know Maui Wowie as like a classic sativa strain. But what can people expect a little bit more on that flavor profile? Like, people have probably heard of Maui Wowie before. You've heard that talked about as like, oh, this is such a great cultivar for if you're looking for like an uplifting daytime. But what can you get on that flavor side?
Sure. Yeah. The effects, I would say, like, more high energy. And then the pineapple flavor is definitely like, the number one kind of noticeable distinguishing quality about it.
I love that. Yeah. Anything on that tropical fruit side of the entire end of the spectrum, I'm just such a fan of. And Maui Wowie is like the grandfather of that entire flavor profile. It has birthed so much cool stuff. So I'm excited to have Maui Wowie be sent to people all across Minnesota.
Yeah, so are we. It's going to be time.
So tell us a little bit more about this box. People can get Maui Wowie delivered directly to their doorstep, but what does that mean? What kind of stuff comes in that box?
Sure. Yeah. Like, the fun part about it, right? It's different every month. So you get a range of stuff depending on when you sign up. We get, our partners involved. So as much swag and stickers and all that cool stuff as I can convince them to give me, then I pass it on. So it's really fun. You kind of get a broad range of things.
Awesome. So I've gotten, the slurricane seeds. I've gotten the Blue Dream Auto seeds. But for people who maybe haven't been following along, maybe have been hesitant to sign up, but thinking, oh, Maui Wowie, now is the time. I got to do it. How would people go and get signed up to get those seeds?
Sure. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
Awesome. Sweet. So that's MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. You can enter that in right to that URL box. Get that entered in. Go get signed up for that box and have Maui Wowie seeds delivered right to your door.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming in today. We really appreciate it as always. And everyone out there, go get your seeds. It's time to grow. And we're back. So we've got a ton of news that we're going to be digging into that's happened over the past week in Minnesota. It's crazy to think that this all has happened within that time. But first, we have two quick plugs that we want to give. First off, the Division of Social Equity is looking for grant reviewers for the Social Equity Grant Program. So if you're someone out there that's hoping to make an impact on people getting money that's coming from our cannabis program that's helping to repair the harms of the war on drugs, you can be a reviewer for that. And it is a paid gig. So definitely feel free to go out and apply for that. All the work is done remotely. Reviewers may be eligible for a stipend. And that next review begins this spring. So we're going to drop a link to that in the show notes. We really encourage people, if you know cannabis, if you know the harms of the war on drugs, it's important to have those people reviewing the process. So be part of that. One other quick plug that we've got is this episode comes out on January 14th, if I'm recalling my dates correctly. And January 15th is when the second round of social equity verification officially opens. So if you want to apply for a cannabis license as a social equity applicant, maybe you didn't get verified that first round many, many months ago, now is your opportunity to get verified before that first round in just a couple of months here. If you were verified the first round, you don't have to do anything for this. So this is just for people who want to be social equity applicants but didn't get verified round one. That opens tomorrow. So go and start applying for that. All right. Those out of the way, let's get into the big news. We've talked a lot about the director of the OCM on this show.
Who?
Aaron. No. Not that. Eric Tobble. That's who we're going to be talking about as the new director of OCM. Because earlier this week, we got notice from Governor Walz thanking Charlene Briner for her service and welcoming in the next interim director in Eric Tobble. I mean, Marcus, first off, what was your initial reaction to getting this news earlier in the week? Did you see this coming?
I didn't see it coming. My first reaction was, I wonder if, I mean, I know all along she said she didn't want this job permanently, but the timing was curious. Like, I was wondering, was she asked to exit now, or did she just decide I want to be out of here now? Especially with the trouble they had with the first round of social equity licensing. So I was thinking, yeah, this is a good time for her to leave. And sure, she handled a lot of things, competently, but yeah, I think they really fumbled the social equity licensing process. And that press conference I don't think that was managed very well.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, maybe they said this is the time to go.
Yeah. It was interesting seeing that, thank you for your service from Governor Walz that listed out the accomplishments. And they'd set up an entire state administration that wasn't there beforehand. So I'm not trying to say that it's not an accomplishment.
Yeah.
But in essence, the accomplishment was like developed an application process, like set up infrastructure. Like I think for someone who was in the role for a little over a year, there's not a ton to point to as like, oh, the clear leadership here was helpful. And I'm not saying she did a bad job. I think similarly to you, like, the office is set up. They're sort of moving forward. But it does make you wonder what decisions could have been made if there was someone different in that role.
I mean, the biggest fumble was the first attempt to hire a director.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a disaster.
Yep. Friend of the podcast was appointed and then day later nixed. And we're now here. Like, I think I have it on here. Yeah. So she resigned one day after being named in September of 2023. So we're now a year and 4 months out from the person they picked getting resigned. And something that I thought was incredibly damning is that as of late September, so it is a couple months old, but they had not interviewed a single candidate for the second round. So that means they're not really actively looking for a director. You can have the position posted. You can have people apply. But if you now, a year later, haven't even interviewed another person, and we both know people that got pretty close to that process, and it's been quiet. It's been, I think, disappointing to see the lack of leadership in setting up this industry coming from that Walz administration in terms of picking a director that actually directs.
Right. I mean, so in that regards, the office has failed. To get this far without having a permanent director, I think is pretty tragic.
Yeah, and we should say, not the fault of Charlene. Like, it's not because she has said, hey, I refuse to get hired by whatever. This sort of falls squarely at the feet of Governor Walz of, if you want a director, you just have to name one. Yeah. And I get you were disappointed by the first round, but come on, like, over a year now of nothing.
Yeah. So, yeah, they have over 100 staff, and I'm sure they have some good people. They had a great, community outreach director, or I don't know if that's her title. Like, Marone is good. They hired a great social equity director, Jess Jackson. I mean, I think Eric Tabo will, he's capable.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So we mentioned it at the beginning. The person who's taking over for her is Eric Tabo. So people have heard that name a ton because he's general counsel for OCM and has been since the early days. So many of the conversations that have been had with Charlene in the room, Eric was right alongside her. So I think what I've heard from people who are quoted in the media, what I've heard from people speaking on background, what I think we both think, there's probably not going to be any big change from having Eric instead of Charlene. Right. It's basically just going to be a different person at the desk, but probably the same decisions will be made.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's they should have tried to find somebody in the beginning who actually had a strong background, and especially who knows about the plant, who understands the science, who really has a background with the industry.
Yeah, for sure.
That would have gone a long way.
Yeah, by the time this episode posts, but it's not yet out as of our recording, our good friend Dr. Clement Dabney has an article coming out in the Star Tribune talking about that exact thing. The importance of having people that understand the role of testing in that cannabis rollout, the importance of people getting plants in the ground in that rollout. And having someone who comes from a health background sure can have value, but when they don't, seemingly in their choices, not saying personally, but seemingly in their choices, understand that part of the industry, it totally kneecaps everything we're able to do.
Yeah. So
should we speculate a little bit?
let's do that.
All right, so this is our personal opinions, not the opinion of the Cannabis College, all that, disclaimer and whatnot. There's been the conversation over the past couple of days. Was this Charlene's choice? Was this Governor Walz's choice? And I think we don't know. I think if it was any other position, the governor puts out a letter being like, they did a great job. We've decided they're going to find someone new. Especially if they found someone like full-time to fill the role, I'd say this is probably just Charlene looking to move on. But I will say, like, stumble after stumble coming out of this office, it does beg the question, was Walz looking for a change? I don't think he got an Eric, but I don't know. Again, speculation. I don't want to put out there that, like, we for sure know one thing or another, because we don't. There's so limited information. We see the same press release as everyone else. But, I don't know. I wonder how Tim feels about how our industry has rolled out.
Yeah, I think he's not. I mean, it's speculation. We don't know. We think.
For sure.
We believe.
Yep.
We wonder.
Yep.
We
Personal
question,
opinions.
But yeah, I don't think he's prioritized the industry enough. I'm sure that he cares about it, doing well and happening in a timely manner. But like, he was distracted running for vice president, and like even throughout the legislative process, he wanted to get done, and he wanted, blah blah, saying the right things, but unless we had like executive and administrative leadership that really were like super passionate about the cannabis industry in Minnesota really thriving.
Totally.
That's why we've had such a struggle to date.
Yeah, Governor Walz is willing to put out statements and tweets supportive of our industry. And I think if this were 2 years ago, I would have said, man, we have perhaps one of the most supportive governors of cannabis legalization, because we did. And I think now that we're on the other side of legalization, now that we're in the implementation, I don't think we have the most supportive governor in our country. I think, if anything, he's sort of left this behind as like something he just doesn't want to deal with.
Yeah, like it's going to happen. It'll be okay.
And from that part, that makes me think that this was Charlene stepping down, because I couldn't see Walz stepping in to say, we got to change this up, when he hasn't done a single thing since September of 2023.
I mean, one thing that I heard, and this was from somebody who had a close contact within the governor's office, is that when Dr. Dabbs was the runner-up out of 150 candidates during the first attempt to hire a director, that he didn't like that Clem showed up in the interview without a tie on. And so, like, something superficial like that, just, I'm like, you had somebody who has a PhD in cannabis, genetics and genomics, plant scientist, industry experience, young black guy who really understands and cares about social equity, and like he gets disqualified for like some superficial reasons. Like we had the opportunity of a lifetime, and it was blown.
Totally.
So yeah, it would be nice to have like people who really understood equity beyond the definitions that the legislature provided, and really comes from the cannabis culture to lead the office, but we don't have that.
Yeah, 100% agree. I've heard people float before, obviously Dr. Clement Dabney's name before as a director. I've heard people float Jess Jackson, the social equity director at OCM. Like, there are people that understand the power of that role. and the things that you could do if that role was utilized in the way that the legislature set it up to potentially be utilized. But by having lukewarm support from the people that are really supposed to be running things, it leads to a lukewarm implementation. Where is that social equity we were promised? So far, it's just expungement, which didn't come from OCM, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that really caused me to scratch my head and shake it a little bit from side to side is the way that they were gaslighting us, in response to all these disqualifications of the social equity license applicants. And they were just trying to focus on 200 suspect applicants who were zone flooding or
Totally.
The shady actors that we've all been worried about, multi-state operators trying to put out fake or, real suspect applications. But they were totally ignoring the fact that, when the teacher fails, your brilliant quote in that strip article, when the teacher fails 2/3 of the class, is it just the students that we should be looking at? Or should we also consider that the teacher failed the students?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I get OCM, they have their job. They're there to help be that buffer to make sure, like you said, people that are from out of state, maybe trying to flood the zone, whatever, don't become part of the industry. But it does make you wonder of, they rejected a lot of applications and offered no support. I mean, we both know people. You applied for a license. Yeah. Have you gotten an email from OCM saying, here are the ways that we're going to help you during the next round?
No. I mean, but in response to the litigation and them deciding to cancel the first round, they are going to do requests for more information in this next round.
For sure.
So that is an improvement in the process. But I feel like, as somebody who read their handbook and their instructions and all of the documents that they required applicants to submit, they were misleading people, at least in terms of saying, well, if you don't have this, that, or the other complete in your application, given this very short time frame to apply for social equity verification and then to submit the application, July 24th to August 12th, that you can attest that you will submit more information later, if you're selected within the lottery to convert it to a license. So I think a lot of the people who applied thought that, okay, I'll click this box. I'll attest that when the time comes, I'll supply more information. They were misleading people into thinking that you could submit an application that wasn't more rigorous than they ultimately said, oh, we're going to disqualify all of you because you didn't supply enough information.
Absolutely.
When they were telling you, you don't have to supply all the information now.
Yeah.
So I feel like the OCM really was refusing to accept any accountability. And they were, and to me, it's real suspect that they won't acknowledge that they made any mistakes. They're trying to put it all on applicants, or kind of imply that, oh, the legislature required us to do this and that. And some of the condescending messages that I was hearing from Charlene Briner about applicants' failures, and then suggesting that, oh, this social equity round was for the most prepared people. Why even have a social equity round if you're saying we're trying to get this for the most prepared people to deal with this highly regulated industry? Isn't social equity supposed to benefit people who may be less advantageous? And then I'm like, how are some of these people who advanced wealthy motherfuckers? This is not social equity. And OCM has failed to accept any accountability.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of glad that the lawsuit,
Yeah,
anyway,
totally.
Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, dude, I think you're spot on. Where if OCM had come out the day after and said, you know what, we rejected 2/3 of applications, but here's why. Here's the tools we're providing for people to fix it in the future. Not this round, but next round. Here's, X, Y, and Z. I think people would have been upset that their application was denied, but they would have understood this is a highly regulated industry. I tried my best. At least I have an opportunity to move forward from here. Instead, the email that people got was, your application was denied. You're not getting your money back. Good luck. And then to be told the reason you were denied was because you were part of the wave of zone flooders. When you're looking around and you're like, I'm one of one applying for this license.
Exactly.
I tried my best. I filled out the information. I read your guide. At what point is it not my fault anymore? And I think if you're having 2/3 of people get rejected, it points to maybe it wasn't the fault of the vast majority of the applicants, but maybe the people that designed the tools that rejected them.
And we had to take their word for it, based on the things they're communicating in their emails and on their websites and in these press conferences in which the media are reporting. And it sounds like they made no mistakes.
Yep.
Like, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, just within my own experience, like, they said we failed to provide a clear capitalization table, which is really, I mean, it sounds complicated, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a simple one-page spreadsheet where you list your name, your social security, your contact information, and the percentage of ownership that the people on that cap table list. And we had 3 people on ours, and then the arithmetic is simple.
Yep.
You divide the 100% by 3, and the main social equity applicant has 65% of that. Like, that's the most simple elementary arithmetic. And they told us we didn't get it right. And then I heard about somebody, she said that one of the people on their application, they had an identification card. It might have been a driver's license or whatnot. And the OCM said, this person is underage. That person was like in their mid or late 20s. And they were saying, so like, I know there were mistakes that were made by the OCM.
Sure.
And they refused to even suggest that there may have been some flaws in our review process. Yep. Like the way they were defending themselves, like, oh, we had 3 people who checked every application.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, this is new to y'all too.
Yep. Yeah.
Like there's no mistakes.
I know. And so the thing that you're quoting came from the public meeting that OCM held for their advisory board, where Charlene talked about when an application was denied, it went to another reviewer. If they denied it, then it was a denied application. If they approved it, it went to a third judge to decide and break the tie. But what she failed to mention that you are perfectly touching on is that you have one reviewer. They make a mistake and they deny an application. It takes literally just one more mistake. That's it. It doesn't have to be major. And suddenly, now that application is denied because 2 people made a single mistake, which, like, I'm sorry, it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I've made 50 mistakes today. I'm certain of it, if not more. And I'm willing to admit that and say, let's fix things as we move forward. And for OCM to say, not a single mistake was made. We had a system that was perfect. And if you got denied, it was your fault, is just... I hope that Eric has a different message. Let's have that as the point.
I mean, the thing is, we were hearing stories about attorneys, experienced business attorneys who had some clients who advanced and others who didn't. Like, how are these attorneys looking at 2 different clients' application packets and fucking up one of them? Like, to me, that's suspect. Yeah.
What a fun industry we live in. Well, so that was actually only half of the big news from this past week in terms of our cannabis industry. We've got another thing that we're going to dig into, but first, let's take a very quick break. Ever felt like running a cannabis business means running in circles just to get basic banking? Union Bank and Trust gets it. They've been helping cannabis businesses for over 10 years, solving problems like securing accounts, managing cash flow, and navigating regulations. No more jumping through hoops, no more runarounds. Just straightforward banking solutions built on trust, integrity, and performance. That's unionbankandtrust.com.
Hi, I'm Allie Mann, co-founder of Moonlight Cannabis, and today I'm going to talk to you about our 3 signature gummies, Crescent Moon, Half Moon, and Full Moon, appropriately named to take you through the cycles of the moon based on your dosage. All of these products are going to have the similar effect, just the level of how you're going to feel it and how deeply you're going to feel it will differ based on Crescent, Half, or Full, whichever one you go with. So Crescent Moon is our brand new gummy. It's 2 milligrams THC and 4 milligrams CBD. So Crescent Moon is for those who are very new to this, right? 2 milligrams is a very low dose. 4 milligrams of CBD will still help offset that worry or anxiety or paranoia sometimes you might feel if you just took THC. Half Moon was the one we launched first. This is kind of our signature gummy. It has THC and CBD. It's a 1-to-2 ratio because a lot of times when people take THC by itself, they can experience some anxiety or paranoia. And in our research, it's found that adding CBD can kind of offset some of those negative side effects that sometimes THC can have. So that's the point of having the CBD. This is the one I take every night. Full Moon is 10 milligrams THC to 10 milligrams of CBD. So this is for people who maybe want to feel the THC a little more.
Crescent Moon is a watermelon flavor. And how we come to these flavors is just flavors that we like. For Half Moon, we have 2 different flavors. We have strawberry, we also have pineapple. And then for Full Moon, we just have 1 flavor. It's a raspberry lemonade, which is my personal favorite flavor.
It's extremely important to manage your dosage. Start with a quarter, start with a half, try it every night. Don't take another gummy in 20 minutes because you don't feel it, right? Give it a good 2 hours, maybe wait till the next day and really document and record to yourself how it made you feel. And then you can kind of play around with which gummy and which dose of that gummy is right for you.
You can find these 3 products at Dabbler Depot, THC, all around the Twin Cities.
All right, and we're back. So when it rains, it pours in Minnesota cannabis news. And this week with a 1-2 punch, not only do we have Charlene stepping down and Eric stepping into her role, but we also have that rulemaking process officially starting Monday of next week. And what's exciting is by the time you guys hear this podcast, it will have already started because it's now Tuesday. So you can go online and read those rules right now. We'll put the link to that in the show notes, and you can see what changes were made. What did they keep the same? Unfortunately, we're at a place right now where we don't know. But what we do know is what that process will look like. So that's what we're starting to talk about for a minute here, and then we'll tell people how they can make those comments. So rulemaking is a very exciting government mechanism where we take laws and turn them into the rules that make those laws function.
I'm on the edge of my seat, Tanner.
Yeah, it's not only do we have, it's like one step removed from the fun of watching laws get made. Like we've both spent time at the House and Senate just watching people argue, pulling our fucking hair out. This is not elected officials, appointed officials, looking at the laws that were written by other people and creating rules on how those laws should go into effect, not as the legislators, but as the regulators. So they're not coming up with new rules. They're coming up with what the existing laws look like as rules. It's sort of like when I would take goals and turn them into objectives for my students. It's all the same thing.
So you're not, I'm guessing there's not a Schoolhouse Rock song for this one.
There actually is. Let's cut to it. No, unfortunately there's not. Instead, in essence, what this is people just figuring out what do those laws look like on the day-to-day. Fine, you say people are allowed to grow 5,000 square feet, but what does that actually mean in practicality? This sort of breaks down more of the where do security cameras need to be, how far away does your door need to be from other businesses, what percentage of THC can you have in your product? You know, there was a cap of 70% in the draft rules before. Will that stick around? You guys know. We don't yet. But they're going to release this draft of the rules, and that starts a sped up process where for the next 30 days, anyone can provide public comment on those laws. You can say, hey, I think this rule is good. I think this rule is bad. I think this rule is illegal. Any of those things you're allowed to provide as public comment. And that is public data. So if you're providing that comment, your voice is out there and part of that. And then a judge, an administrative law judge, is literally going to sit down, look at all the comments that they got, look at OCM, and OCM is going to have to decide if they want to make changes or if they want to keep moving ahead. Assuming they keep moving ahead, because that's sort of how things in government go, We can expect them around the middle of February to close that comment period and then provide it to a judge to review, which could take a couple days, could take a couple weeks, could take a couple months. But what they're saying is that the rules will be in effect by the time that licenses are given out in May, knock on wood. But so we expect this to last until basically May. People providing comments, that being worked in, and then being reviewed until we hear for certain which way it ends up going. So, all that being said, if you guys have thoughts, comments that you want to make, you can tell us. We always love hearing your thoughts and comments, but you also can submit them to the Office of Administrative Hearing Rulemaking e-comments website, which we'll put in the show notes. That's the most exciting link we've ever put in the show notes before.
How can people connect with us?
You can drop it in our YouTube comments. You can send us an email. In fact, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of those, the episode description begins with a button you can click on to text us. It sends it right to my phone. It actually sends it to our podcast app, but then that goes right to my phone. And so we will bring that comment onto the show. You also can send a letter if that's your thing, or if you want to fax the Administrative Hearing Rulemaking Division, you could. 651-539-0310.
We are a full service.
That's what we're here for. What we're here for. When was the last time you guys sent a fax?
I've never sent a fax in my life.
I mean, you can do it through your phone now. So
right.
I have faxed through my phone, scanned documents, which I sent to fax numbers.
Does it make the cool beeping sounds that actual fax machines make?
No, I typically have my phone on silent, which that's why the shit going off while we were recording was shocking.
That's how people know that we're doing this all in the first take. This is real. That's
one take wonders.
One take wonders. Yeah. So coming back to the rules, we expect to know so much more about what this industry is going to look like on Monday, and we're sitting here on Friday. You guys are there on Tuesday. We don't know enough to be able to tell you guys in a really informed way what those rules look like. But you can go and look them up. So look in that notes. We're also going to be having an event here at the Dabbler Depot. The date is to be determined, where we're going to be walking through each of these rules and providing people a space to come and gather and provide that comment publicly here as well. We really think that by getting the community together, just like during that legislative process, it allows us to have a unified voice. And rulemaking is different, but uncomfortably similar.
I mean, this is a big deal, though, for both the entrepreneurs and the consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So while it may seem like some shit that people should just ignore, I mean, if we really care how the cannabis industry operates in Minnesota, the devil is in the detail.
Oh, yeah. You think laws are hard to change. Rules, that's a process. Yeah. So, just make sure to go to that OCM rulemaking website. We'll put that in the show notes. You can get the link to those new rules. You can get the link to where you can submit comment. But then, of course, drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Oof. Well.
Big stuff.
Yeah, big stuff. That was a week.
It's not a lot, but the things that we did have were whew.
Yeah, absolutely. By, the 17th, so a week from today, we'll have draft rules and a new director.
Wow.
And that's it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a big week for the OCM.
Well, that was a lot. I think we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we get back, we've got a great conversation with Sydney Peloquin of Minny Grown, hearing a little bit more about her background and some of the products they make. And then, of course, at the end, our high note. We'll be right back. Northern Lights is brought to you by Dabbler Depot THC. With 3 Twin Cities locations, Dabbler Depot is proud to deliver expert knowledge, finely crafted products from gummies and seltzers to grow tents and nutrients, as well as a one-of-a-kind cannabis shopping experience to all levels of enthusiasts, growers, and the canna-curious. Their Eastside St. Paul store, Seed and Sesh, is also the happy home of the podcast you're listening to right now. So be sure to stop by every Friday between 2 and 4 p.m. to get a live look at your favorite cannabis podcast being recorded. On top of that, You're also welcome to come to the Seed and Sesh every Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. for their home grower meetup night. Come hang out and get connected with the ever-growing cannabis community here in the Twin Cities. Dabbler Depot's Seed and Sesh can be found at 951 Payne Avenue, St. Paul. Their flagship store is located at 1545 West 7th Street, St. Paul, and their South Minneapolis location is at 4152 South 28th Street, right across the street from the Baker's Wife Bakery. Or you can shop online, DabblerDepotTHC.com. Dabbler Depot THC, growing plants, growing community. Northern Lights is brought to you by the Winter Beer Dabbler, Minnesota's premier craft beer festival. The winter weather will be upon us before we know it, which means the best beer party of the year is getting closer and closer. Join your fellow hardy Minnesotans at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds on February 22nd, 2025 from 3 to 6:30 p.m. and enjoy unlimited samples from hundreds of breweries, cideries, and other yummy libation creators. With general admission, early access, and designated driver tickets available, there is an opportunity for everyone in your crew to have a brew-induced blast. For tickets and more information, you can visit beerdabbler.com/festivals. Winter Beer Dabbler. So, Minnesota. And we're back. So we're sitting here today with Sydney Peloquin of Minny Grown. Sydney, thanks for coming in the studio today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Minny Grown, some of the products that you guys have, and also your history in Minnesota's cannabis industry. But First off, a little bit about your background. Tell me about what brings you to the cannabis industry. What was your first experience with cannabis? Sort of what brings you here?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first experience with cannabis was in high school, and I was 16, and it was an old friend who introduced me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I didn't like it at first. The first time I tried it, I didn't like the taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that changed very quickly, and I feel like the first time that I ever consumed, it was an edible. I was by myself. I put on Bob Ross. It was a great time.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a great time. I just remember all my muscles relaxing so much and being like, okay, I see why people enjoy this. I see why this is good. Another thing is my family consumes as well. And my grandfather specifically consumed throughout his life, but as well as that, he did develop Parkinson's disease in the later part of his life. So he used cannabis to help manage those symptoms. And
Gotcha.
it was amazing to see, you know, his tremors immediately go away
Yeah.
after consumption. So that's really special to me. And, you know, I think that is a large reason why I wanted to join the industry.
That's very cool.
Yeah, in 2021, that's when I started. Before that, I was going to school in Canada for my first year in 2019. And then COVID happened, and I had to come back because the border closed. So
Yeah.
I had no choice. And I knew I wanted to work in the cannabis industry because when I was there, it's legal at 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I could consume there and access the Canadian dispensaries, which was
very cool. So was
a
your
great
first
experience.
interaction with legal cannabis
Oh, yeah.
in a nationally legal?
Yep.
Very cool. Okay.
Yep. And it was so nice to have all those options. And I knew at that point, even before COVID, that I was thinking about coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, what do I want to do when I come back here? I don't really know. But I thought of the cannabis industry. So
Yeah. And 2021 was like a really exciting time for our industry. With post-hemp, we had hemp being grown across the country.
Yep.
And people were really learning that CBD could be put into a variety of different products for people, for pets, for anything. At the time, were you, you had talked about the medical history of having your grandpa who used it. Were you a CBD user at the time, or were you much more like the traditional cannabis consumer?
a little bit of both.
Okay.
I used it occasionally. I didn't use it all the time, I will admit. But I did use it every once in a while to manage, you know, anxiety or insomnia. So I dabbled in
Okay,
it a
very
bit.
cool.
Yeah.
That fits in well here at the
Yep,
the Dabbler Depot.
absolutely. Absolutely. So then that leads me to working at Minny Grown.
Yeah.
I was working at a hotel before that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. I was also going to school online. because this was during COVID still, my first interview with Zach was over Zoom.
Okay.
Because it was COVID and, it was only 20 minutes away. I could have very well done it in person. So we were all still wearing masks and everything. And it was just a part-time gig. I wasn't looking for anything serious at the time. As I said, I was going to school and I started working at the store. I actually was hired on 4/20 of 2021.
All right. That's cool.
Yeah. So that is my work anniversary. And I worked at the store part-time, managing it, taking care of customers who were there to shop for CBD products. That was all we were selling at the time. We weren't selling these products that we have in front of us. But, it was tinctures, and we had capsules, topicals, and pet tincture as well. So we still sell a few of those products today, but that was all we did. We didn't have the THC line yet. And it was in Woodbury. Business was slow. It was very slow.
Yeah.
The store in Woodbury ended up shutting down in February of 2022. Yep.
Okay, for sure.
So I wasn't even working there for a whole year. And at that time, I was laid off for a few months. And then when they started producing THC, they were on the news. So I saw Zach on the news. I happened to be watching, and I was like, okay, I know they didn't have a lot of help before. It was just me and one of my friends working at the store. So I reached out to him and was like, oh, do you need help at the facility with things starting? Because I lived in Hudson, Wisconsin at the time, and the Minny Grown facility is in Cannon Falls. So I was commuting an hour to get there every day.
Okay.
So it was definitely a big commitment, but that's, when this all started.
Yeah.
That became my full-time job.
That's so cool. One that shows like the passion of today. We sort of take for granted that like if you're interested in learning about cannabis, like there's cannabis shops from all over the place. But at the time, like I was working on a farm that similarly was like an hour and a half away from my house, and I was just lucky for the opportunity to be able to like be in the cannabis industry and like see this stuff. And what was it like seeing that transition going from CBD, it's sort of a smaller business, to then all of a sudden like, oh shit, we can put THC in all of this stuff?
It was so insane. It was such a insane growth point because, the business was at a point where it was about to shut down. They were very, very close. But then they introduced the THC gummies. The first one was blueberry. I don't believe I have it up here right now, but that was our very first one.
Yep.
And they featured it on the news. They reached out to the news to try to get some coverage about it and listed it online and started selling it on, July 1st of 2022. Totally. And I started working July 5th, 2022 back with them.
Cool.
Yeah.
So just really like in the height of like all of a sudden that demand for edibles, we have lines out of stores like where CBD, there were people that were aware of it and using it. I think that demand for THC was just like so much larger. So many businesses were overnight transformed.
Oh, absolutely. We didn't have much staff at that time. We were having a lot of Zach's family volunteer and, people in the community volunteer for the first little bit beforehand to get things ready because we had so many orders come in that it took a really long time to be able to start producing that and getting that taken care of at the very start of a business. When things aren't streamlined, we're still testing things out.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's way different. It's way, way different. We have a staff of about 25 employees.
Very cool.
And we work Monday through Friday full time, making gummies at the facility. And, everybody has stuff to do. We're popping the gummies, making the gummies, sugaring the gummies. And then on top of that, we have our fulfillment staff and then we have our sales reps, which, speaking of them, they're doing a great job right now. We are expanding into several different recreational markets with, it's New York, Nevada, Michigan, New Mexico, and I think I'm missing one more. But we're expanding a lot right now, and
That's
it's
really
super
cool.
exciting.
Yeah, I saw that visual on your guys' social media the other day using the juice analogy of, some some lemonade might require less lemons to make it, but at the end of the day, like, it's all the lemonade you enjoy and love.
Yep,
And
exactly.
that's really cool seeing brands move from the hemp industry into adult, not just into other states that have hemp, but into recreational adult markets and really find a foothold there. That's cool.
Yeah, it's huge. It's totally different compared to where we were before.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Oh yeah, that's hitting. That's hitting.
Oh yeah.
See, I would love to have our own chart on the wall where it's like the point in the interview when the interviewee needs to take a sip of water, and it's how many minutes into the clip.
There we go.
It's like our own little Top Gear, like
This could be
fastest
some
lap.
good data.
Actually,
Yeah,
that's such a good idea.
You see,
That's
folks,
such a
this
good
is how the
idea.
magic is made.
There's a podcast called Hot Dabs that I really like, and their whole thing is they start with like a pretty average like dab, and then they move to like a slightly hotter, slightly larger dab, and it just keeps increasing until that guest is like, "Nah, I'm done. That's all I need."
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, oftentimes guests, even that are like professional concentrate makers, get to like the third, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't need any more right now. Like I'm good." So we'll do that sometime.
Good call.
Mm-hmm.
Good call.
Yeah, no, but so you were talking about sort of seeing that change of the industry of going from a business that is volunteer managed, that has family members that are sort of working to help things out, to now suddenly you guys are operating in other states. You have sales teams, you have fulfillment teams, you have a product line that isn't just, hey, we make tinctures, but we make gummies that have CBD in them, that have CBC in them, that my dad is a huge fan of your guys' Hibernate gummies.
Oh yeah, that's our best seller.
Yeah, well, and it also shows the, my dad doesn't track cannabis laws. That's not like his cup of tea.
Yeah.
But when the Hibernate 2.0 came out, he called me and he's like, what is happening here? And
Yeah.
he still loved them. Like, it's not a negative against the product, but I think it goes to show how people find what they like. And when that's no longer available, they realize like, oh, like that actually was legitimately helping my life. Like I felt like I was sleeping better. I felt like I was getting relief. I felt like whatever be it, I was getting more enjoyment out of life because of that product. And now I can't have it. So I'm glad that these products are here to stay and that we've sort of leveled out on what our industry looks like.
So we actually still have the original Hibernate available.
Ooh, all right.
We still have them available. We decided to keep both. And the 2.0 is actually the better seller. It's our top selling product, but we do still have the original Hibernate.
For sure.
And it's going great.
That's
Along
really cool.
with the CBN gummies, the Rainbow Sherbet CBN gummies. Those don't have any THC, but they are 25 milligrams CBN.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it's neat having that additional cannabinoids available on the market. I've heard that people talk about Minnesota consumers as perhaps some of the most educated when it comes to the minor cannabinoids. That you go to Colorado and sure they talk about THC and CBD, but they're not talking about like what is the CBN percentage in this cannabis. But you have consumers in Minnesota that seek out products because they know that has the blend that I want. Or,
Yeah.
when you're looking for a new product for yourself, what are some of those cannabinoids that you generally gear towards? If Steve was in this seat, he'd be saying like CBG all the way. What are your thoughts?
I like CBG.
Okay.
CBG is good. I had one of those today, actually. They're delicious. They're pink lemonade.
Okay. Very
And
cool.
I also like a high CBD content. I really like the Hibernate 2.0 gummies. I definitely feel like I'm not groggy in the morning after that, and it's just such a relaxing feeling. Those are so good. So CBD and CBG, some of my favorites.
Cool. I take it.
CBN, I'm so about it. I like it a little bit, but I feel a little bit groggy personally after it. But, it works well for a lot of people. We got a lot of positive feedback from it.
I love it. We'll give it a try. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of the other things that you do for Minny Grown. You've evolved in your role from working on the sales side to also helping to manage the social media accounts. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like being in 2024, now 2025, and managing social media accounts for a cannabis company on maybe not the most friendly platforms to cannabis ever.
Oh, it's really difficult sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really difficult with constantly changing rules and regulations that you have to abide to. You know, so many people are shadow banned in the industry and get their accounts shut down every day.
Yeah.
I feel like it's loosening up a bit, but you know, we have to be so careful about what we post, or you know, you're going to get shadow banned or removed.
Yeah. Because just to like, for people at home who maybe have never run a social media account for cannabis before, if you posted something that had like a picture of gummies that said like, come and buy these right now, like they have 50 milligrams of THC, they'll get you super stoned, go to our website.
Oh yeah, no, you can't do
Facebook isn't
that.
going to be cool with that.
No, no. Facebook isn't as bad as Instagram.
Okay.
Instagram is Jordan's rolling his eyes.
Yep.
Yeah, Instagram's the worst. TikTok can be difficult as well. Twitter, X, completely open. You can say whatever. YouTube also has some regulations with the shorts, I've noticed.
Yep.
And LinkedIn, you can be pretty open as long as you're talking about, you know, business to business stuff.
Okay.
And industry news, but Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We've spent a lot of time with our Instagram. So much time, you know, going through, changing things to make sure that, you know, it's not going to get flagged. And if it does, you know, trying to resolve that as soon as possible by experimenting with different things such as, you know, editing the photos to make sure there's no cannabis leaves on it, not saying cannabis, not saying marijuana. You can't say those things openly without having some eyes on you and without being limited on who's going to view your stuff.
And there's no like rule book for this, right? Like it's not like Mark Zuckerberg is calling you and being like, hey, make sure to like blur that part out.
No, it's just a lot of research, you know, looking at what other people in the industry are doing, seeing what's working well, you know, looking at forums, and it takes time to figure out. It took a lot of time, and it's ever evolving. We'll experiment sometimes to see it, try to push the boundaries and see if we can pass something, but you know, we've been playing it safer more recently because of that reason, getting shut down.
Do you have a favorite emoji that you use instead of the word cannabis, like the blowing leaf emoji?
Oh yeah, I like the leaf emoji.
That's
all the leaf emojis. Yeah.
I've been saying, like, in the same battle happening, I've always been saying it's like hitting a moving target in a dark room. Like, sometimes that just happen to release at the right time.
Yep.
And you hit the target, like bullseye or not, like you're just stoked you hit the target. And otherwise it's like, nope.
Yeah. Well, and it appears as though like some of the rules on social media apply differently based upon how old your account is. Like some people that have been there for a while maybe are getting a little bit more open with what they're able to do. Whereas if you have an account that's like 3-4 weeks old, you're a new company, you want to post pictures of your product. Maybe just post your logo and call it a day.
Yeah. We like to post lifestyle stuff around it to create the image of the brand.
I love
we're posting videos, giveaways for the community, and we post just, general brand related artwork to paint the picture of Minny Grown.
Very cool. Because, like, if you were to, in like a couple sentences, describe like what is the message of Minny Grown? Like, how do you guys describe who you are and what your products are? Yeah,
the logo or the saying has always been hemp with heart.
Okay.
And it's still true to this day. We started as a small CBD business growing hemp, and I wasn't personally there for that, but I was working in the Woodbury store, and they were growing hemp in cannonballs. But I did see it a few times, and they were putting so much work to harvest all that and process it, and to now we're producing these hemp gummies and beverages, and it's been so great to see the growth.
That's really cool. So, sort of, if you were that Woodbury employee, this was your warehouse, your products in front of you. I've come in, I've said, I've never tried a cannabis product before, but I'm interested in giving it a go. Which of these might you steer me towards, or what would you point out as something?
Generally, I'm gonna suggest if someone wants, a daytime or a nighttime gummy, because that depends on a lot of different things.
Okay, for sure. Let's. I'm looking for something daytime use, a little
Then
bit,
I would
maybe take before a
definitely
podcast.
Suggest the sativa gummies.
Ooh, all right, for sure.
Yeah, they're delicious. St. Croix sativa. They're tropical
I
flavored.
love the Minnesota. The oh my gosh! All right.
Yeah,
We have to hold up the packaging. This is incredible. You've got the beautiful sort of St. Croix scape there, along with some critters in a boat, water skiing. You got a loon there. I love that.
Shout out to Sandbar Joe,
There
our
we go. There we
designer.
go.
and our marketing director.
Gosh, I just all right. I don't mean to cut you off, and I hate
you're
doing
all
that as a
good.
guest. But I love the Minnesota aesthetic to all of these gummies. You've got like the big Pete Pucker's Paul Bunyan on this one. Yeah, we're gonna make Jordan do a lot of camera work. I'm sorry. But like,
give me
all right, there we go. We'll hold it back up there.
And move your fingers.
Sorry. I know. I always cover it.
All right.
Like down to the, you're sitting out, you're drinking some tea, you got the woods by the fire. Like that's so fun.
They are fun. They're really fun. It's always exciting to see the new designs. I think that gravitates a lot of people to our brand.
For sure.
There's a lot of time spent on designing these packaging.
I would like to add, I've been taking pictures of your products for years at this point now for Dabbler Depot, and yours are always the ones I like bring to places to like put around town because it just incites that Minnesota feel. So I feel like I wouldn't do it justice like taking them out of the building, like putting them in a tree somewhere and taking a picture.
Yeah.
It's like I want to take this to like the like St. Paul skyline type.
Yeah.
Like it's like I can
Yeah, it's a bag you put on the Stone Arch Bridge to get the city in the background because it truly is that Minnesota vibe in a cannabis product.
Yes, it is. They really have done that perfectly. And that is, a large part of the messaging of Minny Grown is just supporting the local community and representing Minnesota. And, it's been so fun to see. And there's been a lot of work that's been done to create this.
So one thing that I wanted to ask you about, we talked a little bit about the gummies, which I think are really, really cool, but I wanted to touch on the beverages that you guys make.
Yeah.
Now, the beverages that you guys make aren't just sort of like a traditional, it tastes like blue raspberry, so you get blue raspberry, but it's actual like beverages that you would find in a bar, but now in a can with THC. Tell me a little bit more about those.
They're inspired by supper club cocktails, what
there
you
you
would
go.
find in the Midwest. So we got Moscow Mousse, like Moscow Mule, one of my favorites. Lemon Droplets, like Lemon Drop. And then we got the Sunshine THC, which is like an Arnold Palmer, a spiked Arnold Palmer. And then we have the Boat Cruise Cosmo, my personal favorite.
Okay.
And that one's like Cosmopolitan. It's so good. I always recommend that one to anybody who is looking for a beverage.
I love it. I think it's such a cool transition for people who maybe are used to that alcohol world, but haven't really explored in THC.
Yeah.
Maybe are looking at something and go like, raspberry Northern Lights. Like, I don't know what that tastes like. But
Yeah.
lemon drop, I feel like that's a flavor that people are just sort of universally, they know what to expect with that.
Yeah, they do. I think it makes it a lot easier for people to make their decision because there's not as much guesswork. You kind of know what you're getting into with it, but it just doesn't have the alcohol. So you're going to get some of those same flavors that you would get in a traditional cocktail, especially with dry January right now.
Yeah.
It is, what a lot of people are reaching for.
Yeah. It's been cool seeing every year the news talks about dry January as a thing. But this year, I feel like there's been such an emphasis on not just, hey, stop drinking, but drink instead things that are not alcohol, but that can provide relief in your life or maybe that you just enjoy. And there's been such a push towards like cannabis products. My mom sent me a Care 11 article the other day that was all about like the different beverages you can have for dry January that aren't alcohol but are THC.
Yeah.
And seeing that mainstream adoption of just cannabis has been really cool.
It really has. It's super exciting to see it, so well accepted.
Yeah.
And, the stigma is lessening. Of course, it's still there a little bit, but, it's lessening more and more. And you can find it at the grocery store. You can find it at the liquor store. You can find it at the corner store. Anywhere you go, you can find it.
Oh, yeah. Now, you're born and raised in Minnesota.
Yep.
What has it been like watching like the community that you grew up in transition to accepting cannabis? Like, I went to a gas station just a couple blocks from my parents' house the other day that's selling THC products now. And thinking about like the amount of times I went there as a kid and like, were we stoned? Maybe, but like, we weren't supposed to be. Then now they're the ones selling the cannabis products. It's such a change. What has that been like in your world?
It's been great to see. You know, I think it's such a positive thing. And, you know, it's so easily accessible that you can easily use that as an alternative to alcohol. Whereas before, when there wasn't such a market for it, you know, you're making it yourself.
Yeah.
And now you don't have to do as much guesswork to have those alternatives available to you.
Yeah. The days of the eat half a brownie and wait an hour
and see.
You
don't know how much is in it necessarily.
And that's been, I think, like all right, we keep going on all these tangents, but this is one that I think is important to touch on. It was such a change for me making homemade edibles, which I've been doing for a while, and sharing them with people in my life and saying, the dosage is like somewhere between like 10 and 25. And having and having loved ones in my life that have so gotten used to the 5-10 milligram edibles that look at me and go like, oh, I don't want that. And I'm like, oh, but like you might get really stoned. Couldn't that be fun? And they're like, no, I like knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And I suppose that is the cannabis world of today. People don't like the buying an edible with cannabis in it and have fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I really liked living in Canada because it was available to me there in that same perspective. And now it's really exciting to see that my home, Minnesota, is getting caught up to that point.
Yeah, hopefully our industry soon gets to the point that Canada's is, which is at least having stores open.
Yeah,
and
I know, right?
It would be cool to, like, Canada, they do some things very wrong when it comes to cannabis, as many places do. But one thing they do that I think is really cool is that you can get it through the mail. Like, you can order it, and it is a Canadian postal service that brings you your cannabis.
Yep.
And has USPS brought me cannabis before? Absolutely. Do they know about it? Certainly not.
Yeah.
And I want to live in a world where that's just...
It's okay.
Yeah, you can buy things online. Welcome to 2025.
Fingers crossed for the future.
Yeah. So sort of on that point, speaking about the future, what do you foresee as the future, both for Minnesota, but also for Minny Grown? You touched on moving into some recreational markets. What do you sort of see as the future of the next 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely want to expand as much as possible into as many recreational markets as possible. So that's just what we're going to keep on working on. And it's going to get a lot bigger. We're going to outgrow our facility eventually and need more people. So I definitely foresee all that happening very soon.
So one question that I had for you is, you were working not in the cannabis industry and thought to yourself, this is a transition I want to make. I want to go from working in a hotel to now being in the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands of people that are in that very similar position right now of thinking, adult use is coming online. Is this the time for me to make that jump?
Absolutely.
What advice would you have for people who are sort of sitting in that same shoes right now?
Update your resume.
Okay.
Look on Indeed and look on job posting platforms. LinkedIn is a big one. There's a lot of opportunities out there right now. And, you know, there's going to be more and more as the industry grows. So definitely look into it.
Do you wish you were still working at a hotel?
No.
All right. There we go.
No.
Well, that's the endorsement. Go apply for a job today. Get work in the cannabis industry.
Well, yeah, as I said before, you know, it just started as a part-time job. I didn't think it was going to be a full-time serious thing. It ended up being my career, which has been really exciting. And I'm super happy that I've been able to be with the company since the beginning to witness all that growth.
And I think it's exciting to think about where we're going to be as an industry 10 years from now, when it's not like we're still trying to cut our teeth and figure this out. We're still trying to have states that are coming online, but hopefully as things stabilize and businesses are able to actually like plan for the future, this is going to look like the garage of Apple. I truly think that this is going to be the next industry that just takes over.
Absolutely. I mean, it's booming so much right now, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Super exciting. because it's national now.
Yeah.
On a national scale, people can find hemp products. So, before it felt like it was very much a Minnesota thing, and then it grew beyond that and then into the recreational markets as well. So it's so accessible everywhere you go.
Yeah, it's cool having people watch in other states and being able to say, these are cannabis products that you can try. Just buy it online and they'll ship it to you. And you can try
exactly.
Do you have a high note from this last week? It can be anything. Something you enjoyed, a thought you had.
I'm a little stoned right now.
Perfect.
That's all good.
That's
I need
the
to
point.
think.
Yeah, so
Back.
Yeah.
Okay, so for reference, last week Tanner had a beautiful kind of like almost philosophical high note, and my high note was all right. Fuck, marry, kill, blunts, bongs, bowls. Like that. Like that's kind of the.
No, my high note was I went to a women's hockey game and I thought it was really cool.
Nice.
It was philosophical in that like I think we should support more women in sports and
Yes,
support young girls.
absolutely.
But yes, that was,
Shout out PWHL,
Shout out
Minnesota
PWHL.
Frost.
Minnesota Frost.
Dude, did you see the Taylor Heisey goal?
Such a good goal. So I actually, welcome to the hockey podcast.
Okay, yeah, this just went from a podcast to a sports podcast.
So Minnesota Frost, our professional hockey team, they were tied. They went into overtime. They won with a shot right at the end. I had just stepped out of the living room to go grab something, and my wife screamed. And we've been dealing with mice. So I thought there was a mouse in the living room.
Oh my God.
And I came running out prepared to help. And it was that the Frost had just won the game.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
Yeah, it was an emotional roller coaster to say the least. And I was thrilled. That's great. Yeah. No mouse and
Good
we
news.
won. Yeah.
Good news.
Yep. Yeah, so do you want to do a high note? You don't have to though.
My high note has been, so far the new year's been pretty good.
Sweet.
It's been super exciting. This opportunity is wonderful, and Dry January has been great for business. Coming in after the holidays, we're still going strong from that time. There hasn't been really any downtime right now. So lots of high energy, good energy, lots going on.
I love it.
That's my high point.
Honestly, that's great. I feel like at this point in the year, if you're going into it with like, things are still good. Like that is a high note. Like
Absolutely.
that is just things. It's the 9th. Things are positive.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a professor one time who, this is such a mean joke that he would make. And he would say, it's the 9th, which means you're roughly 1/36 of the way through the year. Do you feel like you've accomplished 1/36 of what you hope to accomplish in 2025?
Oh,
and I would say, no, of course not. It's
That's
January
so
9th.
existential.
Yeah, it is. Yep. And I was a philosophy major.
Okay, yeah. What I was gonna say, what class did this guy teach?
He was a philosophy professor.
Checks out.
Yep. As soon as I switched to special ed, they were so much more like positive. They're like, we're here to help people. We're here to teach people to learn. Like that was the department that I fit into. The philosophy department, tough some days.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's been awesome seeing Minny Grown grow over the last couple of years. And I'm excited to see where you guys continue growing in this industry and around the country.
I'm really excited as well.
Awesome. Well, Sydney, thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Just sort of
absolutely.
wrapping up, for people that want to learn more about Minny Grown or follow along with the stuff you're doing, where would you send them to give you guys a follow?
Minnygrown.com, and you can find us at Minny Grown or MN Minny Grown on most platforms.
Perfect.
At MN Minny Grown is only for Facebook and YouTube.
There we go.
Yep.
I love that. Awesome. Well, Sydney, thank you so much for coming in again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll be back in just a minute. Northern Lights is brought to you by Dabbler Depot THC. With 3 Twin Cities locations, Dabbler Depot is proud to deliver expert knowledge, finely crafted products from gummies and seltzers to grow tents and nutrients, as well as a one-of-a-kind cannabis shopping experience to all levels of enthusiasts, growers, and the canna curious. Their East Side St. Paul store, Seed and Sesh, is also the happy home of the podcast you're listening to right now. So be sure to stop by every Friday between 2 and 4 p.m. to get a live look at your favorite cannabis podcast being recorded. On top of that, you're also welcome to come to the Seed and Sesh every Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. for their home grower meetup night. Come hang out and get connected with the ever-growing cannabis community here in the Twin Cities. Dabbler Depot's Seed and Sesh can be found at 951 Payne Avenue, St. Paul. Their flagship store is located at 1545 West 7th Street, St. Paul, and their South Minneapolis location is at 4152 South 28th Street, right across the street from the Baker's Wife Bakery. Or you can shop online, DabblerDepotTHC.com. Dabbler Depot THC, growing plants, growing community. Northern Lights is brought to you by the Winter Beer Dabbler, Minnesota's premier craft beer festival. The winter weather will be upon us before we know it, which means the best beer party of the year is getting closer and closer. Join your fellow hardy Minnesotans at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds on February 22nd, 2025 from 3 to 6:30 p.m. and enjoy unlimited samples from hundreds of breweries, cideries, and other yummy libation creators. Now, those who watch this show regularly, you know this is generally where we put Tanner's chirp tasting. Well, actually, we're going to be spinning that off. So check your feeds on Friday, and you'll be able to see Tanner's chirp tasting as its own whole segment thing. So check it out. We've got a great jar, Ope solventless. And Marcus, while you're here, you are, I think, the best smeller, sniffer maybe, of our entire podcast. And can I have you smell this jar and let me know what you think about it? All right, there you go. So this is Ope. You can check that video on Friday. Check our feeds on Friday. You can see our full Tanner's chirp tasting of that. But let's do some Marcus chirp smelling.
Smells like lemon deodorant.
I love it. Well, hear what others think of Ope gaseous mentalities. Check that on Friday. You can get the video, or you can check your audio feeds. It will be there as well. All right, guys. should we do our high note for the week?
I think so.
Our way that we end out every episode. You guys know by this point because you watch every week. What is the high note? It is our positive thing, our thing we thought of while we were stoned. Just something from the week, where we just share a little bit of our high note. Oh my goodness! All right, we've now been joined in the studio by Kale of the Dabbler Depot, holding a can of the Northern Lights beverage. Yeah, this is from Liam. Oh my God! Shout out to Liam, huge friend of the pod.
Code.
Wow. I haven't seen one of these in a long time.
So Liam was cleaning out either his or his parents' fridge. His parents are brand reps for a brewery in town, so they got a lot of stuff in their fridge. And he found that in the bottom of it and decided to bring it in. So I've had it in the back, and I just saw it. I was like, oh, I got to bring this to Tanner. So
wow.
Yeah.
Blast from the past.
Blast from the past.
I don't know if that's the advertisement I want it to be, but
that's so cool. So I actually haven't seen a filled can of these in 6 months, probably, if not longer than that, because I have a lot of empty ones of them that sit on my shelves or on my desk at work or whatever be it. But wow,
put that one on the shelf,
or do we want to?
I don't know. I have multiple cans of different iterations of Hams cans in my garage still filled. And they're just like up like where my old saw blades are because I'm a good old Midwest boy like that. But like,
that's cool.
If you want to crack it, it's your juice, buddy.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I want it to be like a time capsule.
That's what I
put it on a shelf and then like a year from now open it. Or actually, we'll probably keep it in the fridge because,
I like the nostalgia feel.
Wow.
Such
Well,
a
that's
beautiful design.
Cool. Shout out Liam.
Is that a high note? Thanks,
Such
Liam.
a cool design. The Northern Lights turned into the microphone. Shout out Modest for the great work on that one.
Crushed it.
Crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. Wow. Yeah, that is my high note from the week. It was a great week. I had a lot of really positive stuff. It was good. But I was going to do some bit about like what recipes do you guys recommend? But I like this better. Yeah, shout out to all the people that made this possible. Andy over at Modest for helping to get that done. The people that helped to get it out. Our buddy Sam Milstein. I think the only reason that it was at the Dabbler Depot was because of that guy. So shout out to him. Yeah, it was a fun one. Marcus, did you get a chance to drink those when it was out?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I bought some at the release party.
It was I'm almost certain of this. I believe it was Modest's fastest sold out beverage in their entire history, which I think is pretty cool. It was gone in less than a week.
So why was it a limited run?
Should we bring it back?
Yeah.
Wow.
Seasonal. Let's make it a special edition. Seasonal. You know, every winter. Winter is when the Northern Lights come out for the most part. So
maybe that's what we tie it to. Is anytime you can see the Northern Lights in the Twin Cities, we do a run of the Northern Lights beverage. I don't know. All right. Well, so wow. Shout out Liam. Shout out Kale. That's pretty cool.
that's fun.
That's going in the fridge, and that will sit there for I don't know how long. We'll have to find a special date to crack that one open.
We'll save it for a big day.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you guys? What are your high notes from the week?
Well, on Monday I had an arraignment.
Yeah. How did that go?
Well, they called me last in the Zoom court hearing, and I was arrested in May 27th in the midnight hour by an officer named Morgan Attenberger in Glencoe, Minnesota. And
Not
they
a friend of the
falsely
podcast.
accused me of driving while impaired because they smelled cannabis. And yeah. So it ended up them not detecting anything, so I was proven innocent. But they charged me with cannabis open package because I had a Puffco pen in my pocket.
Oh my God.
Which had a dead battery. So the good news is that they reduced that misdemeanor to a petty misdemeanor. Bad news is that I got charged and convicted at all, but it's like a traffic offense. But yeah, I still want to sue them for the wrongful arrest, but I did not get a DWI, so that's my high note.
That, you know what? That is a good high note.
Yeah.
And it's fucking insane that it is a legal state. This happened after legalization. This happened after the smell of cannabis being a probable cause for searching a car was not allowed. And yet still, because you had cannabis on you, you're a criminal for that.
Yeah, legal-ish.
Well, and that's the thing is, if it was in like a sealed package, it would have been fine. But excuse me, where can we buy sealed packages of cannabis in Minnesota right now? Literally nowhere.
Exactly.
Literally
it wasn't
nowhere.
even purchased. And it was inside of a vape pen. I didn't even know there was any concentrate in the pen.
Insane.
Like the shit was dead in my pocket.
Yeah. Well, Glencoe Police Department, if you want to come in the podcast, no. There we go.
Well, I would be down to interview the so-called drug recognition expert named Chase.
There we go.
Chase, what the fuck was his last name? Anyway,
I don't mean this
Chase
negatively
from
towards
Floyd County.
any Chases out there, but Chase sounds like a name that can't handle big dabs.
Yeah, he was trying to persuade me in the back seat of the squad car to do the little pilot test thing where they throttled it in the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Chase Karsten.
Wow, what a great video.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Nobody.
Nope. No, thank you. Not going to participate in your
It's
study.
Pseudoscientific.
Which, by the way, not to do the news during the high note part, but that study is now over, and it is now up to the legislature whether they want to extend it. And I hope that the government is just broken and paused enough that this is how it dies. It's just with government incompetence.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Well, on that high note, Jordan, what was your high note from the week?
Exciting news in the household over here is that my partner has recently started nursing school, in-person nursing
That's
school.
cool.
And it's a big adjustment, big routine shift, big change. And obviously there's growing pains that come with making a big difference and a big shift in your life. And I think she's been feeling that. And my high note is essentially just like, if you're feeling like you're being overwhelmed, chances are you're doing a little bit of growing.
Yeah.
It's okay to be uncomfortable as long as you know what direction you might be heading. And I've just been kind of having to be not having to be, but happily being the steadfast partner here during a time of, tumultuous routine shifts. And I've just kind of been repeating to her is like, this is a good thing. The feelings you're feeling, it means you're pushing yourself in the direction you feel you've needed to be pushed. So
Absolutely.
it's maybe it's less of a high note, more of a point of encouragement to anybody who might be feeling a little bit of growing pains. It's okay. Growing pains means you're growing.
Yeah.
I had a therapist one time that said to me, if someone says to you, you've changed in like a negative way, you can say to them, we're supposed to.
Right.
That's what we do.
Thank you.
People, and
Thanks for noticing.
We grow. And shout out to her for growing. That's pretty cool.
She's a rock. She's an all-star. I am inspired by her every day. So shout out to the wifey.
Do you think she wants to come and do big dabs on the podcast?
She wouldn't come within 35 feet of our dabs.
That's super fair. That's super fair. Well, I like that high note. That was a good one.
Thanks, guys.
I feel like we got a little bit of the nostalgia. We got a little bit of like that positive freedom. We got a little bit of like the supporting people. I think it's a well-rounded high note.
What else are we here to do other than uplift, encourage, and feel?
We're here to improve, adapt, and overcome. Or whatever that
Deny,
means.
defend.
All right. We're going to talk about this, and this is how we'll go out. I went to a Tipper concert last week. Shout out Snowda. It was super fun. First concert I ever went to that started at 1 a.m.
A Tipper concert?
Yeah.
What is that?
So Tipper is an electronic artist. He played at a concert called Snowda. It actually started at like 7 p.m., but then it went to like 2 a.m. So I wasn't going to be there the whole time. In fact, this was right after that last episode that we recorded. So I went there. Super great concert. Incredible. But one of the artists that opened up that I can't remember the name of right now, and I apologize really badly, started with different audio clips of newscasters going, Dened, defy, depose. Defend, and then it broke into like a beat, and that was the drop. And I had my buddy Aaron, who was standing next to me during that, and he shouted, "This goes to all my uninsured homies." And yeah, that felt real. So I have that video clip. Should we put it in?
Yeah, send it along.
We'll put it in. So deny, defend, depose. All right. Well, that's all we got for today, guys. I mean, that was a good episode. That was a fun one.
Thank you.
We'll be in your feeds next week on Tuesday, but of course, we'll also be in your feeds this Friday. We've got Tanner's Herb Tasting now as a separate segment. Check us on YouTube. Check us on Spotify, podcasts, whatever you want to, all those places. If you find a podcast there, you'll probably find us there. And if you don't, let us know because we want to be there. But in the meantime, you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And make sure to subscribe. Share with a friend. Crack a can of Northern Lights.
If you still have it.
And we'll be back next week. Thanks all. Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by Steve Eigenman and Jordan Witt. Production assistance from Marcus Harkis, Shayna Payton, and John Barty. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot studio by Jordan Witt. The information provided in this podcast does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.